Hi, Harvey Z. Warren, your drop debt coach. This module is about the reality of debt trouble and the challenges of settling your debts. Much of Chapter 8 is focused on the kinds of disclosures that credit counseling agencies, debt settlement companies, and bankruptcy attorneys should give you regarding your debt relief services. I begin the chapter with a quote from a bankruptcy trustee from Ohio. He believes if you could actually give consumers a way to get the relief of a Chapter 13 filing without the court proceedings, you will have done something for consumers, creditors, and the courts that is desperately needed. Bankruptcy is a serious matter, but often providers of bankruptcy alternatives paint a rosy picture and fail to alert you to the dangers that await you down the road. Just because you dodged the bankruptcy bullet doesn't mean there won't be serious consequences to settling your debts. Again, that is not to say you shouldn't settle your debts. People don't choose to settle their debts. They settle them because they have no other choice. I think most people understand that debt trouble is big trouble. They get that idea from the phone calls and the red letters in their mailbox. That said, it is important whether you are working with a do-it-yourself program like Drop Debt Coach or hiring someone to handle the settlements for you, it is important for you to know the risks. Because I am not an attorney, I cannot advise you on what to do, even if I were sitting having a face-to-face conversation with you. What I can do is tell you about your options and where to look for the kind of help that might be right for you. My sincerest hope is that you won't need any help other than this book and this coaching program and the courage and discipline to do what you need to do for yourself. Help comes in three ways: from yourself, from a debt settlement company, or from an attorney. The approaches are similar in that each seeks a willing concession from the creditor because of your hardship. They are very different in execution and risk, however, and you should carefully consider your choice. Because I strongly believe in personal empowerment, I still assert that the best option for most consumers is to negotiate their own settlements with creditors, as discussed in Chapter 5. This is certainly the option that consumer advocates will support as your best choice. They think that negotiating with creditors is something that you can do for yourself. And in fact, you can, especially with the help of Drop Dead Coach. Creditors should be willing to help you work out a settlement. Not only is it the best way for them to collect the most money, but also it was their policy of liberally extending credit with 0% teaser rates that created the problem to begin with. Raising that point with collectors normally brings a round of exasperated eye-rolling and statements such as, "No one made them take that credit card offer when it came in the mail. No one held a gun to their head and made them buy that flat-screen TV with the money they didn't have." Yes, that's true. But is that really a fair assessment of the consumer's responsibility? Clearly, those who wish to avoid bankruptcy, like you, realize that they have responsibility for their debts, or they wouldn't be seeking help. They wouldn't be studying this program. Instead, their names would be in the collection agency's skip tracing queue. They would have run and changed their phone numbers, or they'd be in the waiting room of a bankruptcy attorney. Bankruptcy reform attempted but failed to direct more consumers down the Chapter 13 path and work out a settlement with their creditors. What I'm suggesting here is a similar plan, but on an informal basis, without court. Ironically, the evolving Informal 13 has achieved voluntary settlement rates well in excess of the best-case scenarios bankruptcy reform is attempting to achieve by force. As we have discussed, we can begin to accomplish your goal of settling your debts without bankruptcy by creating an accurate budget, sticking strictly to that budget, and following a disciplined payment schedule. But you, the consumer in trouble, must be fearless in presenting the facts to your creditors, no matter how painful that may be. In their 1997 study of collection tactics, Visa reported that the single most prevalent cause of consumer bankruptcy was overly aggressive collection practices. Intrigued by this finding, I carefully tracked down why consumers left their settlement programs for bankruptcy. It is sometimes because the income from a second job or some other anticipated source of financial assistance did not materialize or proved insufficient. But all too often, I found that consumers sought bankruptcy protection because they were frightened or forced into it by the collection experience. The Visa study was right. The good news is that a growing number of collection attorneys are realizing that it is a waste of time and money to spend scarce resources to pursue consumers who have already voluntarily presented themselves, personally or through a help group, in an effort to avoid bankruptcy, exactly as you are doing. If companies tried to work with consumers who are already seeking assistance, rather than pursuing them as adversaries, they would be able to save the costs of court filings, collection letters, dunning phone calls, and manpower resources, all aiding the bottom line. By every measure, for this select group of people, for this select group of responsible people like you, assistance is preferable to traditional collection. With the number of bankruptcies rising again, lenders and collectors are starting to believe that the assistance model for those who voluntarily seek help provides more revenue and generally a happier ending than traditional collection methodology. In the next module, we'll talk about your rights in bankruptcy, so you're prepared to have that conversation with creditors if they decide not to do it your way. I'm Harvey Z. Warren, your Drop Dead Coach.